Hey, it's State of State. We got your Nittany Lion update. It's a football discussion with Tom and Justin, so kick back and press play.
With former Penn State and NFL defensive back Justin King, I'm Tom Hannafin. This is State of State. This podcast is presented by BetOnline. BetOnline is the world's most trusted betting platform and your number one source for everything football. BetOnline is every stat, every matchup, and even live odds and spreads to bet on during the games. Think you know your stuff? Get in on BetOnline's $200,000 mega contest and pick 5 games against the spread every week for your chance at weekly prizes and a share of $200,000. When the games are over, head to the online casino and get in on a game of blackjack or poker or unwind with one of over 150 slots games. Head to betonline.ag today to get in on the action. State of State is presented by BetOnline. The game starts here. State of State is proud to partner with Illumination Brewing for another season of crafting State IPA, the perfect tailgate and game day beer for Penn State football fans. State IPA is available now at your local beer distributor, grocery store, plus select bars and restaurants. Visit illuminationbrewing.com/beer/state-IPA to learn more. Must be 21 years or older to purchase. Please drink responsibly. Also, State of State is a proud supporter of Blue White Outfitters. Blue White Outfitters was created as a retail shop meant to highlight the confidence, competitiveness, and fearlessness of the elite athletes found throughout the history of Penn State University. Check out their Lockdown U and Lawn Boys merchandise today, and keep an eye out for State of State apparel coming soon. All sales from Blue White Outfitters directly benefit Penn State student athletes. Visit www.bluewhiteoutfitters.com today. Hi, everyone, and welcome to State of State. I'm Tom Hannafin. He's Justin King. This week, the now number 10 Penn State Nittany Lions are back in action at home. They will host 0-3 MAC opponent Kent State. Now, this is obviously coming off of a bye week for Penn State. What lessons have the Nittany Lions learned since the challenging Bowling Green win? Obviously, an opening week victory on the road against West Virginia. A little Jekyll and Hyde, some time to decompress during an odd September bye week, but now there should be a lot of reason for positivity against an opponent that has struggled, admittedly, this far this season. So we're going to dive into all that here on State of State. Like, comment, subscribe, rate us, and turn on notifications. Get at us on social media at State of State Pod. Hop in our comments section on YouTube, as you always do. You guys are great about that. And don't forget, you can become a member right now of our YouTube channel for just 99 cents a month and get all upcoming episodes of State of State ad-free. No ads, no commercials whatsoever, just 99 cents a month. If you become a member of our YouTube channel, you can hit the join button on our homepage, or you can follow the link in the description of this podcast. A little housekeeping note: we will be live immediately following the Kent State game this Saturday. The game kicks off at 3:30 p.m. Eastern on the Big Ten Network. Justin and I are very fortunate to have a lot of other jobs, so we tend to be busy on weekends, but this is an opportunity where we can be live post-game. It'll be on our YouTube channel first, and then it will air on all of our platforms, video and audio, of course. So we're looking forward to doing that. Justin, this is interesting because rolling into Bowling Green, we were like, this should be, this should be a winnable game. This should be kind of simple for Penn State. It was anything but that. So I'm a little gun shy to say that about this game, but then you look at the way things have gone for Kent State thus far. Opened up the season at Pitt, lost 55-24. They went home to play St. Francis and lost by a score of 23-17. That was a surprise. And then this past weekend, they went to Knoxville, Tennessee, and played the Volunteers and lost 71-0. Penn State currently, we're recording this Tuesday, it comes out Wednesday. The spread is currently 49 points. So you feel confident, but I'm like, after the Bowling Green game, it's the 1-0 mentality, as James Franklin says, just kind of like, let's see how this goes. How are you feeling?
It's a process game, right? When I say process game, everybody going in, making sure that you're focused on your process. Read your keys, alignment, assignment, make sure you're executing everything at 100% correction level, and kind of going with that mentality. Like, this is the week to make sure everything that you're seeing is lined up. Like we said, it came before the bye week. It was a little shaky, right? You play Bowling Green, you think it's going to be a cakewalk, and they come out and make some explosive plays, poor tackling, angles, different things of that nature. Kudos to them. But when you come out to Kent State, you got to get back on track and again back to the process of what we have to do, and the plays are a byproduct of the process. So making sure that you understand, read your keys, accelerate when you need to accelerate, and not to disrespect Kent State, but we've seen the different scores. This is a time to operate on excellence, and that's what I would like to see this weekend.
And it's attempting to not look ahead because the following week you open up Big Ten play at home, and that should be a game of now two ranked opponents. Penn State dropped from 8 to 10 during the bye week. Illinois is currently ranked at number 24 and has opened a lot of eyes nationally that they do have some buzz. They do have some ability. And granted, Penn State has experienced that in the very recent past under Brett Bielema. So you cannot take this Fighting Illini team lightly. That being said, you can't look forward to the Illinois game, which as of right now is either going to be at 7 or 7:30 p.m. with a network to be determined. So a night game environment, that will be fun no matter what at Beaver Stadium. So again, after the Bowling Green game, Justin, I'm not doing any of this. This is a surefire game, whatever, you're looking ahead. None of that stuff. Big thing that James Franklin talked about in his press conference this week addressing the Kent State game is that the tackling has got to be improved because he saw it be very, very good in week 1 against West Virginia on the road and then at home. He said there were probably a number of reasons that it wasn't as good. He wouldn't really dive into specific reasons why, but he hopes and expects the tackling to be better. And also, I'm curious what you feel about this, penalties have certainly hurt Penn State's efforts on both sides of the ball, but especially on offense. It's something James Franklin said, we just have to be more efficient. You're seeing the balance between the run and the pass. You're seeing the explosive plays that we've been craving, but when you get hamstrung by shooting yourself in the foot with penalties, you hurt yourself on third down. You hurt yourself in terms of attempting to build scoring drives. How does Penn State clean that up from what you've seen in those penalties that they've committed?
I think what I want to see through this weekend, right? When I talk about being process oriented, that means executing what you need to do. I think there was a little slippage of execution when we played Bowling Green, more so focused on like making the play. All right, we're supposed to crush them. You get a little undisciplined in how you see things. I remember it was back in the day, not to bring it back to my career. We played Buffalo one time, and I kind of had that mentality. It's probably one of the worst games I played at Penn State, but it was still like, what can I jump? Instead of just, read your keys. What's the splits? Come back, do what you need to do, right? So getting back into that methodical approach, like I said, to the process, I think that breeds confidence when you play better teams because you're confident in your process and going along that. And when you read your keys in football, I mean, the faster you read your keys, the faster you're able to make plays. So just getting back into that mental exercise for the team, I think will be critical this week because that sets you up that's preparation for the following week when you play tougher opponents.
Another thing that James Franklin talked about this week, and it's something that's been raised, local reporters, national reporters, period. It's just Penn State's pass rush hasn't had the pop and explosion that I think people were expecting because that's something James Franklin's teams over the last 5 to 10 years have consistently had, either elite talent at those positions or at least just the ability to get after the passer. First 2 games, it's been there, but it hasn't been exactly what's expected. James Franklin said we would like more production in that area, but we think it's going to come. This is a lesser opponent, so if Penn State all of a sudden blows out Kent State and the pass rush is just eating them alive, it's not going to be the perfect sample size to really say, yep, there they are, they're back. We're going to see that against Illinois, UCLA, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. In your opinion, what have you seen and what is it going to take to get that unit over the hump?
The defensive unit or the defensive line unit?
I think as a whole, because that pass rush can come from a number of different places.
Yeah, I think this the second week of them playing together and Coach Allen's new defense, right? I think you get different looks from week 1 to week 2. And I think whether it's him bringing pressure from the secondary, but the guys just figuring out, okay, what are we going to do in the sense of pass rush situations? I don't think we've seen any just clear-cut wins and that type of thing. And we also haven't just had close games where teams are just dropped back and passing, right? Like you have to earn the right to pass rush. Even when we played West Virginia, they were still running the ball. That wasn't their their thing. We were stopping the run, so like the defensive line was doing their job, tackling well. So again, pass rushes and like that coming out to a thing of to reach the casuals. I think there's a very specific situation that happens in games when you see that, unless someone's just I can't even say when someone's elite, because even elite defensive ends, like sometimes they don't have that many tackles or like impact
Doesn't always show up in the
game,
box
right?
score.
It's only
Yeah.
so many, right? So that's my thing when it comes to defensive line. It's a very tricky position to evaluate. So let alone the interns that are in college doing it for PFF, coming out with grades, or even us judging them from what's going on and people saying that they're not getting pressure. That's a very casual, uh, very, very casual take, especially when they've been making some plays in the backfield. I think there's just like opportunity where you like let the dogs go and like let's see somebody just continuously block them when they got their ears pinned back versus we said Abdul was dropping back. We're giving different looks, trying different things versus week 1, week 2. Keep trying to apply pressure. That's something that has to pick up, and I think it will, but the situations really haven't been there like that.
The interior of the defensive line, I'm curious to see how they play. We talked about it against Bowling Green. First half, not great. Second half, really shored things up in that department. That was the entirety of the defense, but the defensive interior, defensive line, the interior of the defensive line, that is, certainly stepped up in that second half. Considering there's been a bye week and now a full week of practice to get ready for Kent State, I have an expectation that this defense is going to come out angry and with a point to prove, I hope. We're going to see how they perform against Kent State in that department. I feel bad. I do a little bit for the Golden Flashes, considering the way that I just outlined how they've struggled so far this season, off to an 0-3 start. Another thing that James Franklin talked about on the defensive side of the ball, not tackling well against Bowling Green, got to fix that. He also pointed to the communication through the headsets on defense. And we've talked about this before, but it's something that you maybe just don't think about. It's like, oh, they're at home, and that Penn State crowd is up and loud every time the defense is on the field. And it's this whole new skill set that Kobe King is having to learn, and whomever has the green dot that's on the field for the Penn State defense is communicating that in what is a crazy environment. And it's one thing for a quarterback to deal with that at home when the crowd is relatively quiet, and then having to deal with that on the road in a hostile environment. It's that ebb and flow. From what you've heard, because you have sources all over the league, this headset implementation, it's been up and down depending on who you talk to. What's your evaluation been?
I think it's like you said, it's up and down depending on who likes to use it. There's certain coaches that like to show signals where they're thinking someone's where they can be a little quicker. It's just like I said, we used to have a joke where it's like called coaches genius lab rats, because like once they're used to a certain situation, that's what they like to do, whether it's archaic, whatever. But like teaching new technology is sometimes a hurdle, and that's just more of a mentality. But you have some upcoming forward thinking coaches that are like, yo, I could just talk to the players, give little tips on what to look for. They like it, right? So I think it's just the more of the framework of the coach, someone that's looking to be a little bit innovative versus being comfortable in what they do so they can operate at a half functioning level. Because you can have technology that makes things easier, but if they don't want to deal with the technology, it makes everything go haywire. And the play call, the communication, you got a lot of fans. There's just a lot going on when you're figured out how to communicate plays in and out from the sideline. So I think it's a learning situation. But definitely, I would say the number one thing is probably like the age of the coaches that are calling the defenses or offenses.
You go with what you know, and you go with what works. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. And now that this is new, not to mention iPads on the sideline, it's a brave new world for college football. And hell, I can only imagine for you as a defender playing college football in an era where that didn't exist. And then you start in the National Football League, and it's like, no, we have this whole system. That's extremely jarring. You're learning this at a younger age, which is important, but still that first time that you deal with it, it's a first. It's different.
Yeah, because being on the field, to be honest with you, it's just instead of, I mean, we had the linebacker that you spoke to, but we all were still instructed to look to the sidelines. Even so, because just in case the signal went out, he made too big of a hit, and we can't get the communication in. We were always directed to look to the sidelines anyway. So for us, I mean, especially in the secondary, you can't always get to the linebacker and say, "Yo, what's the coverage? What's the check? What's this, that, and the third?" It comes into him, he gives signals, boop, 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 and we're echoing it. Me playing nickel in the NFL, I was picking up a lot of stuff, making a lot of checks from the fronts, back end. And so I didn't hear anything, but I just got my signals from the defensive coordinator. And then the headset was very good for like stunts and stuff for the linebacker to go tap the defensive linemen that are locked in to be able to do X, Y, and Z, because he doesn't have to get it. It's just like getting information going down. So again, it's the operational fact of how you're getting information throughout the game and delivering it to all the other teammates so that we can all execute on the same page.
Another comment James Franklin had in his press conference this Tuesday, and I was curious how he felt about this, is that he raised the subject of discipline as being an issue for the Bowling Green game, especially. And he said the phrase, "Don't try to do more than your job." And that's such like, I think of Bill Belichick and the New England Patriots, just do your job, that sort of thing. And how many times have people in practice situations like, hey, don't play hero ball, play your assignment so we can get the appropriate look, that sort of thing. Don't go beyond that. Do you think that observation potentially came because in the game against Bowling Green, is there the possibility that the players were like, hey, we're better than these guys. I can play a little bit looser outside of my responsibilities and make a big play or something like that? Or it's hard for me to gauge as someone who's not played at that level. So did you see that issue with the discipline for Penn State?
Sure. That's what I was alluding to when I'm saying get back to the process, right? Instead of being the outcome focused. Because when you do play lesser players, it's like, I'm just going to get the ball. I'm just going to do this, or even make a play that's not for you to make, right? So just getting back to the process and trusting what you're supposed to do and make the plays that are for you. And that does come with discipline. And that's what I was saying, like the action is the process oriented, but the thing that kind of keeps it all together is the discipline. So I think he's right on point with that.
A couple of personnel things. As I mentioned, we're recording this Tuesday. This airs Wednesday. We understand that following practices today, we'll understand if safety KJ Winston is going to be able to play this weekend against Kent State. Apparently, some bumps and bruises. There is the conversation that he might miss multiple games due to injuries sustained. That's why there was a lot of questions this week about depth at safety, and DeJuan Lane, whose red shirt was burned. He is a quote unquote green light, according to James Franklin. That is interesting, and that's concerning, obviously, at this point in the season, if he is unhealthy or if it's a situation where it's like, hey, if we shut him down now, we have him for October, November, December, January, if lucky. Have you heard anything about KJ Winston in particular? And then also that depth at safety, you feel so strongly about the top three. DeJuan Lane has gotten some run, which is great. But then after that, it's a lot of inexperience and guys that just haven't had the chance to prove themselves.
The Big Ten has not mandated injury reports yet. So, nope, don't know anything about it.
In terms of that depth, though, outside of DeJuan Lane, are there people that you're looking at as like, oh, this guy could get in there and really make a splash?
I mean, I talk about Zakee Wheatley, right? Like when he talk about guys that make a splash, like he's a splash type of safety. So I would think that this is the type of game that someone like him can end up with a couple interceptions or splash type of plays. He has that type of ability. But beyond that, I think everybody else that would be jumping in needs to go with everyone needs to be on the process oriented train, but everybody else needs to get in there and get their feet wet. I don't know about splashes. He's the splash safety for me outside of KJ Winston.
Got the pick last time out against Bowling Green. Elliott Washington had one against West Virginia. So Lockdown U has performed. It was a challenging first half, as we talked about, against Bowling Green. And that's the one thing for this Kent State offense. I don't expect similar productivity from the Golden Flashes on offense. It is an RPO tempo spread offense. So you may still see some of the same things in terms of trying to get the ball out quickly. And that did hurt Penn State against Bowling Green. So has that been addressed during the bye week? Has it been addressed now during this week of practice leading up to it? Will we see some changes? We got to find out at 3:30 p.m. Eastern on Saturday. Another interesting thing, as I mentioned, red shirts being burned and a green light for tight end Luke Reynolds, who's somebody that James Franklin has spoken glowingly of for quite some time now. Tyler Warren is the guy. Khalil Dinkins, you got back against Bowling Green. Andrew Rappelier has been a little banged up. So Luke Reynolds was somebody that they have spoken very highly of in that tight end position. And I think back to, it wasn't that long ago, Justin, where you had Brenton Strange, Theo Johnson, Tyler Warren. You had a three-headed monster at tight end. Penn State seems to love that and to be able to utilize that mismatch. Do you expect to see them go back to that? Because we haven't seen much of that in 2 weeks thus far under Andy Kotelnicki, and nor did I expect it to be a carbon copy in that respect.
I definitely think you'll get more tight end work. Him bringing in the young gun Reynolds. I think he's more of an athletic guy that continues to stretch the middle of the field, right? I think those are some distressed areas, especially when you're trying to find defenders that can take up the run and defend those type of passers between him and Tyler Warren. So I think it's great for him to be having a chance to come up and get a chance to play. But yeah, I think it's a good way to continue to stretch the middle of the field, especially to go along with the running game that Adam Kotelnicki's been pulling out with the two backs and even Drew Aller. Man, I think he's been listening, and he's been listening to the critique of you having him run, and he's like, "Hey, shut up, Tom."
I was going to say, I'm very happy to eat my words. Drew looks different athletically. He looks more confident in every phase of his game.
I will say you do not. This is a shout out to Drew, because just being a speed guy, you do not see foot quickness increase that much in college. Like if a guy's what they were. So kudos to him, whatever he's been doing this offseason.
Mm-hmm.
Alvin, Chuck, Losi, all those guys in the strength and conditioning room, whatever's been happening between him and his little quick twitch. That's actually impressive to see someone get quicker foot speed. Kudos there.
There's been a lot of discussion about how he's changed his body composition. And I know that's not something that is the sexiest thing to talk about, but it's evident when you look at how he is playing out there on the field, and he's done it in the right times. So can Penn State's offensive line keep him cleaner against Kent State than they did against Bowling Green? Definitely want to see how that goes, because Big Ten play is about to open up. And it was funny because we haven't really talked about Aller or the running backs or the offense all that much in this, but the one thing James Franklin did say in his press conference is, quote, "I want to create more touches on offense from more guys. Explosiveness has been great, but we need to be more efficient," talking about the penalties mostly in that efficiency discussion, being better on third down. I think that's something James Franklin has harped on for years, so that's no surprise. In terms of getting more guys involved, if the score is completely out of hand against Kent State, do you get into the depth at quarterback? Do you get into the depth at running back? Do you get into the depth at wide receiver, tight? I mean, just across the board. And Penn State's done a really nice job already, from my eyes, of getting a lot of different offensive linemen involved, getting a lot of different reps for those guys. So this could be a good opportunity to do that. But it seems like the feel has been the lesson was learned from the Bowling Green game. Never underestimate anybody ever again. And then now against Kent State, I feel pretty confident going into this game that the team is going to be locked in and focused. What do you think?
They got to be. I mean, I think Bowling Green leaves you with a sick feeling after a W, which you never want to have. So to not have that again, you want to perform well and win in a nice fashion. And I think this is a good week to get back on track before we get into Big Ten play.
So we are going to be live immediately following the Kent State game, which kicks off at 3:30 p.m. Eastern on the Big Ten Network. We'll be live right here on our YouTube channel. And if you haven't done so already, you can become a member of our YouTube channel. Click the join button on our homepage, or you can follow the link in the description of this podcast to get all upcoming episodes of State of State ad-free for just 99 cents a month. Our show this Saturday will be available for free for our entire YouTube channel, and then it will be put out on all our audio-only platforms where you can get it. You can comment on our YouTube channel, as you guys always do. We so appreciate it. Get at us on social media at State of State Pod. Like, comment, subscribe, rate us, and turn on notifications. We so appreciate it. This Saturday, number 10, Penn State hosts the Kent State Golden Flashes, again, at 3:30 p.m. Eastern on the Big Ten Network. Thank you all so much for joining us. This episode and our entire library of shows is available now on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, and wherever else you get your podcasts. Also, let us know what you think of the show on social media, and check out all of our content on X, Instagram, and TikTok. Search for the handle at State of State Pod. State of State is presented by Bet Online and by Blue White Outfitters.